Welcome to episode 5 of the 24-Hour Hustle Show. I'm your host, Anthony Freeze, and today we got special guest and financial expert, Rob Wilson. So welcome to the show, everybody. I got special guest Rob Wilson here today. Definitely an honor and a privilege to be able to get the opportunity to sit down with this gentleman. I've been able to find out about this person through Facebook and social media and things like that, and some of the things that I've been seeing as far as content and his fan page and his YouTube page and podcasts and everything that he's accomplished. He's someone that I definitely want to be able to bring onto the show, being able to give you guys some advice and some insight and some tips and tricks on maybe some financial advice that maybe you guys can be able to take. So without further ado, I definitely want to get Rob Wilson to introduce himself, give his background, and then we'll be able to jam a little bit. So take it off.
What's up? What's going on, man? Really happy to be here on your show. Thanks for having me. So you know a lot about me, but just in case anyone doesn't, I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh. I grew up in the Hill District. I'm a financial advisor now, but my undergraduate degree is actually engineering. So I went to the University of Pittsburgh. I studied engineering. I worked for Deloitte Consulting for a few years, which is one of the largest professional services firms in the world. After that, I decided to go back to school, and I got my MBA at Carnegie Mellon. And then that's when I sort of decided to switch careers a little bit, got into the financial industry. My first job in the financial industry was at Smith Barney, which was owned by Citigroup at the time. Again, one of the largest banks in the world. Worked there for about 4 years, and then I left there in 2009, right in the middle of the financial crisis, and started a independent financial advisory firm with a friend that I had met at Smith Barney. And I've been fortunate to work with a lot of pro athletes and entertainers. As a matter of fact, I've worked with athletes that have signed about $500 million in NFL contracts. I've worked with some Grammy-nominated producers, actors on some of the biggest shows in America. So I've been really fortunate to work with some amazing people. And in 2014, I went completely solo and started the financial advisory firm that I run now called Wilson Insight. So that's kind of my story of how I got here in a nutshell.
That's awesome. So what I like to do with everybody on this show, so kind of give me like the origin story of how, your upbringing, and, tell me a little bit about your siblings, how you were brought up, because one of the things that you said you got into first was engineering. What was like the upbringing like for you to want to pursue that first? What was it about engineering that you wanted to go into that?
You know what? That's a very interesting question. One of the things that led me in that direction was, when I was very young in elementary school, they ended up putting me into the gifted program. And so you're in a gifted program, you get to go to a different school once a week, you get to play on the computer, play with instruments, video equipment, all sorts of things, which is amazing. The part that I'm a little dismayed about is, I know a lot of people that I grew up with who aren't here with us anymore, or who they're in jail or any kind of different situation like that. And I've always wondered that if they had had those same sort of experiences, I wonder if their life might have turned out a little bit differently. But,
Right.
I was very fortunate to be exposed to a lot of different things at a very young age. And so that piqued my curiosity, and in particular, getting involved with computers at a very young age, I think is what, inspired me to be a little bit more technical. And so I originally wanted to be an architect, but then when I realized that my drawing skills weren't that great, then I decided to shift over to engineering. But also part of it is that I felt like, engineers, that was one of the highest paying jobs that you could get out of college. And so I wanted to put myself in the best position that I could. So I decided to shoot for that.
Awesome. So, and then getting into finance, what inspired you to get into finance and make that career change? And at what age did you decide to make that career change?
Well, it's funny. I think I had decided very early, but I just didn't realize it. So, I've always been had an entrepreneurial type of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
When I was really young and elementary, middle school, and I figured out I wanted to make some money so I could buy the records that I wanted to buy.
Uh-huh.
I started a store right outside of right in my house
Okay.
where I would sell pizza and soda and Kool-Aid and popcorn and all these different type of snacks
Uh-huh.
because I wanted to make my own money so I could do with it what I wanted to. And then when I was at high school, I sold programs at the pit games, and as soon as I was old enough, I got a part-time job. And so I've always sort of had this entrepreneurial mindset. And then when I got to business school, my original idea was that I was going to go back to Deloitte. The
Mm-hmm.
reason why I went to business school is that I just didn't want to be the techie guy forever. I wanted to augment my skill set. But when I started thinking about what Deloitte billed me to the clients at versus what I took home, and although they paid me well, I flew all over the place, frequent flyer miles, hotel points. I'm not complaining,
Right.
but I did think that I could get a bigger piece of that pie, and so I wanted to put myself in a position where I didn't have to try to convince somebody on the other side of the desk that I was worthy of being promoted or that I was ready to be stowed with a higher salary now. I didn't like that model. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be in a model where if I felt like I wanted to make more money, then I needed to go find more clients. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
totally okay with that. Everyone isn't okay with that. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be more entrepreneurial. And then when I started looking into the financial industry, it seemed like a best of both worlds, that I could still be analytical and technical. I could use that side of my brain, but I was also never the pocket protector kind of engineer. I enjoyed being out, speaking, being in front of people, building relationships, networking, those sorts of things. And
Mm-hmm.
so being in the financial industry gave me the ability to do both of those.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, and then with learning like the finance and things like that, you say you got your MBA at Carnegie Mellon, correct?
Yes.
Now, so what year was that when you got that and graduated from there?
I finished with my MBA in 2005.
So 2005, and then and you say you started your own firm based out of off of that.
No, so when I finished business school, I went to go work for Smith Barney.
Okay, got you.
And so, I was there first, because I was just new to the business. So you kind of need to go to a big firm to have a reputation behind you so that people will talk to you. So I worked there for 4 years, got some experience. They trained me well, but ended up leaving in 2009 to go start a firm with a partner.
Okay, and what's the name of that you started up with your partner again?
The firm that I started at that time was called BCM.
Okay, and what do you do currently that you would say?
Yeah, so currently, so I worked with him for 5 years, and then in 2014, I started my own firm. My own firm is called Wilson Insight, and I'm a financial advisor. I specialize in working with young people in how to create, grow, and maintain their wealth. Some of those people happen to be professional athletes and entertainers, but I
Mm-hmm.
also work with other young professionals, your physicians and attorneys and accountants and so forth. But my specialty is working with young people who want to be serious about their wealth.
So when you get that started, so for someone that may be watching that maybe want to become a financial expert or a financial advisor, what was the process like for you before you actually got that started? And like take me through the journey of the things that you had to do to get that up and running, and then up until the point where you had to get clients and things like that. Like take me through a little bit of the story and a little bit of the struggle so that people can maybe get some added value out of it.
Yeah, certainly, going back to school and getting my MBA gave me the ability to break into the industry. It would have been somewhat difficult to do that just with an engineering degree if I showed up at a financial firm and said, "Hey, I want to be a financial advisor."
Right.
So that, certainly helped me do that. And I was, again, fortunate and blessed enough to have to achieve a full fellowship to Carnegie Mellon. And so all of my tuition and fees were paid for,
So
which
how were you able
is
to
a
get
big
that real
deal.
quick?
So there's an organization called the Consortium for Graduate Study and Management, and they provide full fellowships to some of the top schools in the country for minorities who are looking to pursue advanced business degrees. And so there's an application process and an essay and an interview and all of this sorts of stuff. And fortunately, at the end of the day, they decided to award me one of those fellowships. So it was a really big deal because the ability to come out of a top business school like that without debt,
Hmm.
is significant. So
Absolutely.
that allowed me to break into the industry. Then when I went to Smith Barney, the difficulty is first you have to get licensed. So I had to study for all of my licensing exams. So you can't even talk to a potential client for the first 6 months.
So what kind
So
of studying do you got to do?
yeah, so there's I had to study for my securities license, my Series 7, 63, and 65, which are all the licenses that enable you to sell and manage securities. And so, there's books and classes and things that you have to take to make sure you pass those exams. I don't think it should have taken that long. I
Hmm.
was ready to take them pretty soon, but there's a whole training program that you have to go to. So I passed my licenses, and then you get to work. But when you're in that business, they give you a desk and they give you a phone, and they say go ahead and get them. So you eat what you kill. You have to go out and find your own business. And so for my first 2 years, really, I was sitting in the office for 12 hours a day, pretty much on the phone, cold calling. So,
Hmm.
not the funnest thing to do in the world. And in retrospect, I wish I would have not spend as much time on that and instead been out networking. But I did what they told me to do at the time.
Right.
But it does build a thick skin, and it does help you learn how to deal with objections. So I did get something from that, but my time probably in this day and age, my time probably would have been better spent being in front of people, because not many people these days want to pick up the phone and talk about their financial situation with a stranger on the other end of the phone. So cold calling, I'm not sure works as well as it did 20 years ago,
Right.
but it does help you build up a thick skin.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what are some things that, if you would like, or if you can share with us, what are some things, some tips and tricks that you did or have done to be able to do your networking whenever you're doing things face to face?
You know what? Not necessarily any tricks. It's just you got to get out there and work. And so you got to have your ear to the street. You got to know where the events are that you need to be at. And, one of the things is if you can network with people who believe in you and sort of want to take you under their wing,
Hmm.
so to speak, then they'll start to invite you or take you with them, to the big events that are happening around town, so that you can meet the right people. Actually, one hack that I will tell you is that I got into playing golf.
Okay.
And that is something really significant, because rarely do you have an opportunity to have pretty much 4 hours with somebody without any interruptions. And so I would suggest folks that are serious about being a success in business, get interested and start playing golf, because through playing in different charity outings and so forth, I was able to meet so many people that I would have had a difficulty in meeting otherwise, that it proved to be very beneficial. So I got involved with golf primarily for business reasons. And then after that, I ended up falling in love with the game. But if you want to be serious about your business, golf is definitely a game that I would take up.
Yeah, I was going to say, how would you say you are in your golfing game?
You know what? I'm getting a lot better. I've been able to spend a little bit more time practicing. It is a game that you have to practice if you're going to do well at. But I will say, right in through here, I'm playing pretty well. So any of my friends listening, they better watch out.
I got you. So in going through that process, whenever you were working for that firm, what made you? Well, you kind of already said what kind of why you wanted to leave, but so take me through the process of when you got the opportunity to start up your own thing with a partner of yours. What was the process like for that?
Yeah, things were a little bit crazy. If you remember 2008 and 2009, it seemed like the wheels were really coming off of the financial industry. So, we'd go into work every day, not sure whether our bank was still going to be open or not. There were a lot
Mm.
of banks going out of business, merging, all sorts of things. And so there was a bit of chaos, but, you know, uh, my partner came and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about leaving. I think we can go do our own thing," because at some point, when you're building your business, it's not about Smith Barney anymore. It's about the trust that people have in you as a financial advisor. So he said, "I think we can do our own thing. I think our clients will come with us," and it ended up being a good thing, a good idea.
Mm, awesome. So, one of the things that I found out that I do like about the presence that you bring on, or the kind of the twist that you put on what you do with your financial advice, is that you title yourself the hip hop financial advisor, which I think is really cool because I love hip hop. Growing up on it, So what made you want to take on that kind of that twist on it, or even what are some musical artists that inspired you to maybe even go that route?
Well, so it's funny when I started to gain traction and working with professional athletes and entertainers. I was actually talking to one of my friends one day, and we were just talking about my business, and he goes, you're kind of like hip hop's financial advisor, and I was like, you know what, that's okay. So I kind of just took it and ran with it. But really, what I'm trying to communicate to folks is that there are some financial quote unquote gurus out there that I'm sure you're familiar with. So you got your Dave Ramsey's,
Right.
and you've got your Susie Ormans and those sorts
Mm-hmm.
of things. And what I'm trying to communicate is we're in a new era. I think some of the advice that they gave isn't necessarily applicable today. Things that worked 10, 15, 20 years ago don't necessarily work today. And so I'm sort of the advisor, the guy who's got some insight for the new generation of folks who are really trying to be serious about their wealth.
Awesome, awesome. So, how were you able to gain some of those clients that were athletes and things like that? How were you able to develop those different relationships or bump arms with those different kind of people?
Yeah, again, it's just when I started at Smith Barney, I made a decision that I wanted to work with pro athletes and entertainers. I had absolutely no idea how I was going to do it because I didn't play sports in college, and so I didn't necessarily have that built-in network.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe if you just keep trying, right, most things are figure outable, and you can figure out a way. Now, one thing that I was fortunate to have is a classmate from high school who ended up playing in the NFL, and so I reached out to him. I talked to him. I say, hey, just tell me everything you know about the financial difficulties that you have, from being an NFL player. How'd you find your advisor? What are the things I need to know? And he just shared so much information with me. And then my nephew also played basketball at Duquesne. And so there was some context that came from that. But what really accelerated it for me is when I started to partner up with the guy that I ended up starting a firm with. When he and I partnered up, he was already doing the sports business in a big way, and so when I was able to join on with him, then that really accelerated things for my own career. So I started to chip away at it on my own, but certainly the partnership helped a lot.
That's awesome. And this is all mainly when you were based in Pittsburgh, correct?
Absolutely, yeah, and believe me, there was no shortage of people who said, pro athletes and entertain. How are you going to do that from Pittsburgh? You need to be in New York or Los Angeles or Atlanta or Miami. How are you going to do that from here?
Right.
So folks need to understand that there are always going to be people who project their weaknesses onto you and, tell you what you can and cannot do. But I didn't listen to that, and I found a way. And like I said, fast forward, I've worked with guys who've signed about $500 million in NFL contracts. So I think Pittsburgh, starting as a place to start my business, was pretty good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that would be a good segue. What do you think? How do you feel about the opportunities for other people in Pittsburgh to maybe to do the things that you're doing? How would you? What are some things that you would say to even expand on that a little bit more?
I think Pittsburgh is a great place to start a business. I think there's a ton of opportunity, especially now, because you see so many different things that are happening in the city. New restaurants opening, new businesses coming in and opening headquarters, new buildings and big skyscrapers being built. There is a ton of opportunity in Pittsburgh. Now, look, Pittsburgh's not perfect.
Right.
It has its shortcomings. There are challenges as well. But I believe that if you're serious, if you're truly, truly serious and ready to get to work in building your business, I think that Pittsburgh is a great place to do that.
Awesome, awesome. So even moving forward a little bit more, so a lot of the things that you got going on that I really like and enjoy that I engage with is things like your YouTube channel. You got Rob Wilson TV. You got your own podcast. As a financial advisor, a lot of people don't go that route and put their things out on social media a lot, or they don't have a YouTube channel or a podcast and things like that. What made you, as a financial advisor, decide to go that route to kind of market yourself?
Because I didn't need anyone's permission. And that was the thing that attracted me the most. And so I was tired of sitting there trying to wait for somebody to discover me or again, feel like I was worthy enough to bestow some writing position or this or that. I like the fact that the era that we're in now, listen, there's never been a better time in the history of this planet to create a business and be able to get your knowledge, your education, your experience, your expertise out there. So if you want to write, you don't have to wait for the New York Times to hire you. You go start a blog. You want to be a TV star? No one needs to discover you. You go start a show on YouTube. You want to be in radio? No one needs to discover you. You go start a podcast in iTunes. As a matter of fact, you and I could right now pull out of our pocket the HD video camera that we carry around all the time. We can press a button, and in a few seconds, you and I could be live. We could go live right now to anyone on this planet that has an internet connection.
Oh, yeah.
And we could do it for free. Now, look, that makes absolutely no sense.
Right.
If you would have told some people 10, 12, 15 years ago that you were going to be able to do that, they would have taken you to a mental hospital.
Oh, yeah.
But this is the day and times that we live in. So if I'm an entrepreneur and I know that I need to get the word out and people need to know me if they're ever going to work with me, why would I not use these amazing and almost free tools that we have at our fingertips? So I do think a lot of people are missing the boat on that.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if it's always going to be that way.
Right.
But if you're in business right now, you're silly. You're silly not to use these social media tools.
Absolutely. Even to your point with doing a live broadcast, the amount of money that it would take to start that up, like 20, 25 years ago, would have been huge to try to get a studio and cameras and all that and all the different equipment to make that happen would be a lot. But now, to your point, you could just pull it out literally right on your phone and do a live stream. And that literally just blows my mind.
It should blow everyone's mind. It costs a few $100s for one of these phones. And that's it. And you can get your word out just like anybody on any major television station can. And so now that just means you got to have something to say.
Exactly.
You got to have some talent. But there's no more excuse anymore to say, oh, well, they won't give me a chance or no one's discovered me yet. No more excuses. You just got to get ready and put your content out.
Right. Everything seems to be transitioning to more to be in the digital age anyway. To your point, if you want to be a writer, you don't have to wait for the New York Times. You can start a blog right on your website. If you want to get on the radio is now a podcast or getting on iTunes. And the new TV isn't on TV anymore. It's YouTube or on Netflix. It's all either streaming right on your phone, digitally, and everybody can be able to get that content. Not only get the content, but be able to release their own content as well. And like you say, we are living in the greatest times of all time. Just to be able to do the things that we're able to do is unbelievable. And we're only about 17 years into this whole social media thing.
Right.
It's no longer a trend. It's only going to continue to keep growing. And a lot of people are still not on the boat, to your point.
And you know what? I think to your point, some people may have feel like they missed the boat, right?
Right.
That these things have been out there a long time. Oh, maybe I should have started my YouTube channel 5 years ago, and maybe that's true. But no one is saying now, oh, maybe I'll never create another TV show because TV has been around so long, or maybe we won't start any more radio shows because radio has been out so long.
Right.
It's just another medium for you to get your message out there. So there is no it's too late.
Right.
The best time is to start is today.
Oh, yeah. And also, I think there always will be like a radio show or a TV show. The only thing that has changed is the medium in which we get that content in. What we're doing right now, which is essentially a radio/TV show, and the only thing that's changed is the platform that it's on. That's the only thing that has changed. And a lot of people just want to make excuses on why they won't they don't want to go down that road. But it is what it is. I feel like even the next big thing that may be happening is with audio, with like Google Home and with Amazon's product, Alexa, and things like that. Those are also, I feel like, is going to be the next platform to be able to put content out, whether it may be through a podcast or a TV show or whatever. How do you feel about where things are going in the future of delivering content on social media?
I just think it's going to continue to be amazing. I think you see a lot more people gravitating towards podcasts now. So when they're riding the train, or when they're working out, or when they're driving to and from work, lots and lots of people are listening to podcasts now. And there's going to be, to your point, the ability to pull up a lot of that content just by asking Alexa to pull it up for you, or Siri, or Google Home. And so, look, you have to play in these spaces if you want to be in the game. And so we can't get left out, because right now the big guys, I think they're still fighting to try to keep their own, the regular TV, regular radio, and all of that kind of stuff. Eventually they're going to get up, and then they're going to start coming in to play this in this space, and then it's going to get even more crowded. So you really need to jump on it as soon as you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely still early. It's still early, I would say. So what are some of the things that you do on your podcast, and the things that you like to talk about on your YouTube channel?
So I just like to talk about money. And I know that it's, because that's a taboo topic. It's something that people didn't grow up talking about at the dinner table, and don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about with their friends and with their family. But I think that there's no way that you can really try to improve your financial situation unless you get comfortable talking about it. But people have this weird relationship with money, and I don't know why, but for one of the reasons is, there's one of the most often misquoted parts of the Bible is when people say that, money is the root of all evil. And so they just feel weird about money. But that's not actually what the Bible says. It says that the love of money is the root of all evil. But I like to sum it up like this, because I say that, having money doesn't make you evil, and not having money doesn't make you a saint. And so if you can agree on that, well, then, the only thing left we have to do is just go out and get it, because what makes you evil is what you do with the money and or the power that comes from it. But I don't think anyone would say that it's evil to go open up a school for girls in Africa, or to donate, millions of dollars to hurricane victims. I don't think anyone would say that that's evil. But guess what? You can't do that if you don't first have those resources.
Right.
So I think it's incumbent upon you to be very, very serious about building wealth and accumulating as much in assets as you possibly can. And then you can direct those assets any which way you want it to go after that. But you just can't help the type of people that you want to help, the number of people that you want to help, if you don't have the financial resources to do so.
Right. I mean, it all comes down to the characteristics of the person. We try to put money in a space where it's like bad or evil, like you said, but it all comes down to the way the person is actually using it. I mean, if you're saving up to buy like ammunition and things like that, obviously the person that's doing that is not the right person. But like you said, if you're putting into like, hurricane relief, or you're investing into like Africa and things like that, those are great things, and money can be a great resource, and it is a great tool to be able to do those things. One of the things I always like to say to my friends, kind of jokingly, when they always say, "Oh, money's not everything," I'm like, "Well, don't go to work tomorrow." So
yeah, and let's see how fast. And I'll even take it a step further. Okay. I always say that in this situation, let's just take faith out of the equation, okay? So completely disregarding your faith. So other than that, I think that money is the second most important thing in your life, disregarding your faith, okay? The first most important thing in your life, in my opinion, is oxygen. And the only reason money is number two is because they haven't figured out how to charge you for oxygen yet. Okay, so here's the thing. You can't help your family. You can't be with your friends. You can't go have fun if you're not breathing, number one. And number two, you can't do any of those things. You can't put food on the table. You can't put a roof over your head if you don't have the financial resources to do so. And so the sooner that we realize that not only is money a great resource, it is an essential resource. Okay. And the sooner that we become comfortable with that, the sooner we can actually take, the steps necessary to build real wealth.
Right. What would you say is like the challenge people are trying that? What do you think the challenge people are facing with trying to overcome this mindset of just having the challenge of not building their wealth, or is it like their habits? Is it their mindset? What would you say is like maybe a few of the challenges people are trying to overcome, and what would you say is the solution people can take or use to overcome those?
Yeah, so look, it's really all of the above, right? So part of it is mindset, where they feel like money is this bad thing and you're greedy or you're evil in some way if you're trying to make money. And that is just not the case. And that's something that you have to get over, again, if you're going to be able to take the steps necessary. But also it's getting educated. Okay. So even if you can get over the fact that, okay, I don't think money's evil. Well, now you have to understand how money works and what, the tools that you need to have in your toolkit in order to pursue it and grow it and protect it over time. And so there's a mindset gap there, but there's also a knowledge gap that we have to be serious about filling before we can take the steps, along that path. And so, and one of the real things, Anthony, if there's a third one to say, is that a lot of people, even if they have those two things, okay, it's not evil, I learned a little bit more about money, the last thing that they have to get over is that they feel like they don't deserve it. Okay. So they still feel like, well, who am I to have all of these things? Who am I to have this, nice job in a corner office? Who am I to fly on private jets? Who am I to have a big house where I can take care of my family? And so if you don't believe that you deserve it, nobody else is going to believe it either. And definitely no one's going to hand it to you. There are a lot of people that I ask and I say, hey, do you want to be a millionaire? And they go, well, it might be nice, but I don't necessarily have to be a millionaire. Well, if you think that way, the chances are you won't be.
Right.
Because it doesn't happen by accident. So if you can't even be comfortable enough to say, yeah, I want to be a millionaire, it's going to be extremely, extremely difficult for you to get there.
Right. So from the educational standpoint, what are some maybe some good tools or resources, or maybe even some book recommendations that you would give someone to maybe start to get on that path to at least get themselves educated on it?
Well, certainly, I try to provide a lot of resources. So, I've been doing a bi-weekly segment on the CBS affiliate in Pittsburgh for about 8 years now. So
awesome.
Folks can find me there every other Monday, and all of those segments I post on my website, robwilson.tv. But I would love if your audience would give me subscribe to my YouTube channel, robwilson.tv/ youtube.com/robwilsontv. I'm getting very much more aggressive on that platform. And so that's where a lot of my content is going to live. And so definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel. But for a book recommendation, one of the things that really, really opened my eyes was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
One of my favorites.
I would read that original version. Now there's a bunch of variations on it, and he's really milked that franchise, but go read the original Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I would also read Think and Grow Rich. Those two books really, really helped shape the way that I feel and think and act when it comes to money.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. I've read Rich Dad Poor Dad. One of my favorite books is probably in my top 10 favorite books of all time. And Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. I mean, he's a genius. I mean, that book definitely, those two books alone definitely helped shape my mindset a lot more, helped me understand money a lot more and how to utilize it a lot more. So those are definitely two good books that I would recommend as well. Have you ever thought about writing a book yourself? Because I think that would be like just the next step for you.
I have, and as a matter of fact, I'm right in the middle of a challenge to get my first book finished by Christmas Day of this year. So
Okay.
keep your eyes peeled because I got something coming on the way.
Okay. Any details you can share on that? Anything you could give us?
It's basically going to be sort of a manual that I'm going to put together for young people who, again, who want to get serious about wealth. And to your point earlier about just putting out content, on different mediums, podcasts, YouTube, blog, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of those sorts of things. I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. And so I had been thinking about writing a book for a while. But as you know, that can be a pretty daunting task. But when I take a look back, I said, I've got 10 years of content that I've been putting out there that I really just need to organize and repurpose and create a useful resource. And so it's not that like I have to recreate the wheel at this point. I just need to put all of that stuff together in a useful format that people can read, enjoy, and then take action on. And so that's what I'm right in the middle of doing right now. It's definitely long overdue, but I hope it'll be something that people can really, really dig into and use it as a resource in their own life.
Yeah, I think that would be great, and that would be something that I would definitely be looking forward to as well whenever that releases. So, how would you say you even got some of the opportunities to do those TV segments as well? Because that's something that also interests me as well. How you were able to get some of those opportunities. So, what's the story behind that?
Yeah, a lot of people think I have a PR person or someone who's booking me on these shows, and up to this point, I've done it largely without a PR person. Now there's definitely people who have helped me out along the way, but without any PR person or anything like that. The way this originally started, when I was still at Smith Barney, I had to decide, look, how am I going to differentiate myself from the thousands and thousands of other people who are out there who are financial advisors? And I remember one day in particular where I was driving around one day and, my mother had passed away, not too long before this. And I remember driving around and at that time, Kanye had a song out called The Good Life, right? And there's a part in the song where he goes, or actually T-Pain says, I'm going to get on this TV, mama. I'm a put this down. And so I remember driving around and I heard that line and I said, you know what? I'm gonna get on this TV, mama. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it, but mama, I'm gonna get on this TV. And so fast forward, 2008, financial crisis, things are going crazy. A friend of mine had invited me to his party because he had won an Emmy for a documentary he was working on. Now, in all fairness, this was a day that I really didn't feel like being bothered. Long day at work, went home, took my suit off, wanted to just lay on the couch the rest of the day. But I thought two things. One, I signed up for this business, so I know that I need to be out there meeting people, networking, trying to build my business and so forth. And then number two, if I was having a party because I won an Emmy for something, I would want people to come.
Right.
So I put my suit back on, I go to the party, and then, I'm hanging out, and then across the room I see one of the reporters from the local station. So I made a beeline over there. And I go, hey, do you need somebody to come on and talk about the financial crisis? She was a little lukewarm to it in the beginning, but eventually she warmed up to the idea. She had her own show on the weekend. She invited me to come on to her show. So I did her show. Producer saw me on her show and said, hey, that was great. Do you think you can fill in for someone? We're shooting a show the day after Thanksgiving, but it's going to air the day after Christmas. Can you come and fill in? I said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. So I did that. And then fast forward, the producer came to me and said, hey, you were pretty good. Do you think you want to do this on a regular basis? And I said, absolutely, I want to do this. And so fast forward, it's been almost 8 years now where I've been doing a bi-weekly segment on the CBS affiliate in Pittsburgh. And so that has just, once I got so much footage there, it's led to other opportunities. I've been on CNN multiple times. And then now that I spend most of my time in Philly, I've been on NBC 10 in Philly. I've been on the Fox affiliate in Philly. And it's just led to so many more opportunities. But it was really that day that I decided to get up off the couch and go and do what I needed to be doing because I signed up for this business. That's what really set up everything else after that.
Nice. And it seemed like it just happened to just snowball into even more opportunities just from that one moment of, making the decision to get up off the couch.
No doubt about it. And you never know when opportunity is going to strike, right? I had
Mm-hmm.
no idea that she was going to be there. But the one thing though is that I had made a decision that TV was something that I was going to use to build my brand.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a predetermined plan. I didn't know, but I did make that decision. So here's the thing. When I was in that setting, had I not made that decision, I might not have made a beeline over to the report. I may not even have seen her
Mm-hmm.
if I hadn't already made it up in my mind that I was going to use TV to build my brand. So in other words, I was ready when the opportunity presented itself. But a lot of people are just sort of, going through the motions. They have no plan. They've made no decisions, and they don't really know what they want. And if you don't know what you want, literally no one on the planet can help you. But when
Right.
you make a decision, then you'll start to see those opportunities where you might have missed them before.
Right. You knew what your why was, and you knew what your mission was. And once you knew your why and you had it crystallized and you knew what your mission was, you already know what to do. It's all about just execution at that point, and that's what it sounds like to me. And then once you got that opportunity, it just started working. The more opportunities, you had your game down, and you were just working it at that point, and the opportunities just started to line up. When you told that story, I literally got goosebumps, because that's how it happens. I mean, you just gotta be putting in the work. So some of the other things that you've been able to have happen by putting in the work, you've also become a speaker as well. And one of the other things I want to talk about is the thing, or the project that you're doing with ET. How did you get the opportunity to start doing more motivational speaking, or just speaking in general, and and also getting the opportunity to work with ET, one of my favorite motivational speakers?
Yeah. So again, when you start putting your stuff out there, when you start to show people that you are a thought leader in your space, opportunities tend to come your way. And so when people get exposed to you via YouTube, or they see you on TV or Twitter or Facebook, folks are always looking for speakers, either to come to a school or to speak at a conference. Opportunities come your way. But again, I've also been proactive about it in reaching out to folks who are planning conferences and conventions
Mm-hmm.
and saying, hey, do you need someone to speak? Again, you can't always just sit back on your laurels and think that people are going to chase you all the time. It doesn't happen that way.
Right.
Certainly opportunities will come your way, and I've had people reach out to me, and the podcast has been great for that. But you also have to go get it as well and be aggressive about what you want. Now, in terms of working with Eric Thomas, when I launched my podcast, I wanted to have very notable people on my podcast. And so I reached out to ET on Twitter,
And you had no relation, no connection with him at that point in time?
zero. I had
Okay.
zero connection with ET. I reached out to ET on Twitter. Hey, I'm launching my podcast. I think at that point, I had a few people that I had interviewed that at least were somewhat recognizable.
Uh-huh.
And so I could say, hey, I had such and such on my podcast, and I would love to interview you as well. And so, as luck would have it, he actually answers his tweets. He said, hey, contact, somebody on my team. It took a little bit of time to put together, because
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
he's a busy guy.
Right.
But eventually it worked out, and I had him on my podcast. And then again, Anthony, this is what you have to really let people know, is that it's about playing the long game. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the interview with ET. It was fantastic. It was one of my most popular episodes, helped build my podcast. But we stayed in touch, over time. In particular, I stayed in touch with his right-hand man, CJ.
Mm-hmm.
And so literally it was at least 2 years later. Okay. It was 2 years after I had interviewed ET. CJ calls me up and says, hey, we're doing this thing. We got a boot camp coming up, and we want to invite some other people to teach some stuff. Love what you're doing in the financial area. We want to have you come out and speak at the boot camp. And I mean, look, I wasn't asking anything from ET. He was gracious enough to be on my podcast when he didn't know me from Adam. So that was fantastic. And I just kept doing what I was doing. 2 years later, they asked me to come and speak at the boot camp. And I spoke, and I guess apparently, hopefully I did a good job, that they said, hey, we want to do some more stuff for you. with you, and then I end up creating a custom course for them called Financial Mastery that they have inside of their Breathe University platform. And so now we're really building a long-term relationship. I helped them put together this 100-day challenge that they have going on right now, and it's just a real, solid partnership that we've developed, where I can come in and add value in the personal finance and wealth building space, where that wasn't necessarily their expertise, but their membership was clamoring for that and needed that type of information. And so when they were ready to add that, I was somebody that they looked to provide that type of information. So it's really just playing the long game and building relationships and treating people the right way. But I will say this, having the podcast has been a great tool, to your point, to reach out, to be able to network, to be able to build relationships with people. Because if I would have just said, hey, ET, I'm Rob Wilson, can we get on the phone and can you give me some tips? I'd like to pick your brain. Probably not a request that most people are going to gravitate towards, right? But when you say, hey, I'm Rob Wilson, I've got a podcast, and I want to help educate an audience of people. It's not about me. I'm trying to create my educate an audience. Now that's much more advantageous because they get introduced to a new audience. Right. Your audience learns something, and you, if it's your show, obviously you're asking the questions. You get to build that one-on-one relationship and rapport. Right. So that is a win-win situation all the way around, and it's been just instrumental in being able to build my network with some really influential people.
Absolutely. I mean, everything that you just said makes me feel like I'm right now where I'm at. I'm where you were a few years ago, because everything that you just shared in that story gives me a lot of hope. I hope this gives the audience a lot of hope as well in what they want to start and want to pursue. And one of the biggest points that you made, and we've made this point constantly on this show, and we're going to pound this in, that you got to be proactive in going after what you want and reaching out to different people. And one of the things that you said as far as doing the podcast is that it's not about you. Same thing what I'm doing. This show is not about me. It's about the person that I want to bring onto the show and help promote them, and be able to build that relationship throughout the process in the show, and also help them be able to promote their work, their material, and being able to reach a whole new audience. Because one of the things that I remember saying to you when I reached out to you on Facebook was, I'm starting this show. This is kind of what it's about. I feel like it'll be able to add value to you. Do you think it'll be a benefit for you to promote your work on the show? And thankfully you accept it, and I'm so greatly and appreciative of it. I feel like it's not only going to help you, but be able to be a win-win for both of us. And I just think it's a great opportunity, especially in the podcast space, especially if you're doing a format where you're having guests come on. It's just a great experience overall. So, and moving forward, one of the things I want to find a little bit more about is the 100-day challenge, and maybe how some people could get involved with that. Because I know you guys started that early September, mid-September-ish.
Yeah, we started on September 16th, and the reason we started it on that day is because 100 days from September 16th is Christmas Day. And so it's sort of the New Year's resolution in reverse. Right. So instead of waiting until the beginning of the year to start working on your dream, let's start working on it now and get it done by then. And so the best gift that you could ever give yourself is achieving something significant. So we've challenged people to take on some tasks, achieve something that they've wanted to achieve for a long time, and have it done by Christmas Day. So we're happy to have people join whenever they can join. If folks go to robwilson.tv /100-day challenge, they can find the link right there to go ahead and join. And there is a community of people right now just doing some amazing, amazing things. You've got a community of support, people who understand what you're going through, and most importantly, want to see you succeed. So if you feel like you don't necessarily have the people around you that are positive, that are pushing you to be a better person, come and join us, get in the challenge, and let's achieve something together.
Yeah, because I have a lot of good friends, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it may be, that would definitely be interested in joining in that. So let's say, for example, I were to sign up for that. What are some of the things, or do people come up with their own goals, or is something already laid out, or what's the process that a few of the people that have already signed up, what's the process that people have gone through once they sign up?
Yeah, you come up with your own goals because it's really got to start with what's important to you. So, have
Right.
you been saying for a long time, "Hey, I want to get my health together, so I need to
Mm-hmm.
get serious about exercise and eating better"? Like me, have you been saying for years and years that you were going to write this book, and you never did it, and so you get serious during the 100-day challenge about getting that done? There's folks who are saying, I want to have a better relationship with my wife, so every single day for the next 100 days, I'm going to make sure that I do something special and significant for my wife. So it depends on what's important to you.
Right.
So you start there, but we've got a ton of resources. We do a call once. Matter of fact, there are multiple calls every week where you can get on and get advice from the experts. So every other week, I do a finance call. There's someone who specializes in fitness. Sean Stevenson, he does a call. So we alternate weeks on and off. ET does his call every week. CJ has an Empire Business Builder. And then there's also a Thank God I'm Married call where you could talk about if one of your goals are working on your relationship. So there's a little bit something for everyone. The four areas, faith, family, fitness, finance. We've got
Mm-hmm.
something for everybody. So just get started, just get serious, and you'll be happy you did by Christmas.
Right. I mean, and that's what it's all about. And that would be the ultimate gift that someone can give to themselves. And ultimately, it would be the one of the best investments someone that can put into themselves,
No doubt
and be
about
able
it.
to give that gift to themselves around Christmas time, which would be, the cherry on top. So just in wrapping up, what would be the legacy or the impact that you want to leave on people? So at the end of the day, what would you want people to feel or be impacted about what you're doing and what you're leaving behind? What would you want people to say about Rob Wilson?
The biggest thing is if I can influence people into getting much more serious about their wealth building, then I think I will have done my job. I just feel like people are going through the motions. They're going to work every day, but they're not paying attention to the things that would really move the needle in their own life. And so I think if you want to have the type of financial success that I think most people want to have, then you've got to be serious and intentional about this. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that I say over and over and over again is that if you're not intentionally trying to get wealthy, you'll likely end up accidentally poor.
Mm, that's
And
powerful.
because look, it's not going to happen by accident. And so for people who feel a little bit weird about money, then I go ahead and change a few words and the impact stays the same. If you're not intentionally trying to get healthy, you'll likely end up accidentally sick. You didn't mean to get sick, but you weren't serious and intentional about eating the right things, having the right lifestyle, exercising, so on and so forth. And so you accidentally, will get sick. If you're not intentionally trying to have a good marriage or a good relationship, then you'll likely accidentally end up divorced or out of your relationship. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
get into it. You didn't mean to end up broken up,
Mm-hmm.
but were you intentional about doing the things to protect your relationship? And so, same thing with money. If you're not intentionally trying to get wealthy, you'll likely end up accidentally poor. So, if I can help people get serious about it and then educate themselves and start taking the steps that are necessary, because here's the thing, you got to get serious, but you also got to realize that it is not impossible. As a matter of fact, again, like I mentioned before, there's never ever been a better time in the history of the planet for you to really take control of your own financial well-being. But first, you got to accept that it's a serious thing,
Right.
and then you got to start taking the steps. So if I can help people do those two things, I'll be happy.
Awesome. And just in wrapping up, what's the best place people could contact you, whether it be social media, Facebook, email? What would be the best place people can reach out to you?
So I'm going to ask that people first subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com Rob Wilson TV. But just for your audience, I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to give this a shot.
Go
I'm going
for
to say
it.
that your audience can email me directly with questions. So
Okay.
if they have questions that you want answered in a no judgment zone, I went to business school. I didn't go to law school, so I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to help you. Your audience can email me directly, rob@robwilson.tv, like television. So not .com, rob@robwilson.tv. People can email me directly. But everywhere else on social, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, I'm Rob Wilson TV. You can absolutely find me there, follow me there, connect me with me there as well.
Awesome. So yeah, definitely subscribe to this channel. I mean, I follow you a lot. I'm already subscribed. I love all the things that you're doing. I love Money Monday. I mean, that alone is some good tips in itself. So definitely subscribe to this channel as well. And then if anybody definitely looking for some financial advice, email them as well. That would make me feel good that I was able to add that value to someone else. So definitely appreciate you being on the show. I definitely appreciate your time, and because I know you're a busy man, so I definitely appreciate you accepting the invite, and I look forward to being able to work together some more in the future and continuing to build this relationship as well.
Of course, Anthony, this is a great thing that you're putting together for your audience. It's a very valuable resource. So I commend you on taking action and getting things started and putting your content out there in the world. So thank you. I appreciate this opportunity to be on your show, and would be more than happy to come on with you again.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we will have to do a recap, especially whenever that book come out.
Absolutely. Hey, now the pressure is on now because it's out there. Everybody knows, so the pressure is on. So I'll come back and I'll be able to hold it in my hand right up here to the camera.
That's what we're looking forward to. So now that we know what you do with your 24 hours, I hope we've added some value to everybody else's 24 hours. And what I want to know for everybody down below in the comments, let me know what you do with your 24 hours.